Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Robert Rockaway. He is the author of The Jews of Detroit, Words of the Uprooted, The Jews Can't Defeat Me, The Anti-Jewish Case of Louis Farrakhan, and The Nation of Islam. But he was good to his mother, which we will be speaking about today. When I was watching the History Channel one night, I saw Robert Rockaway interviewed about Jewish mobsters. I wanted to actually do an inquiry and find out, is this for real? Did this actually exist? And much to my surprise, there is a lot of factual information about Jewish mobster culture. The author, Robert Rockaway, has a lot of experience. He has been a professor emeritus at the Department of Jewish History at Tel Aviv University. He's written for many newspapers for 40 years, and he has a lot to teach us regarding the Jewish people. Today, we're going to focus on what appears to me as an anomaly, but apparently after reading the book, it does exist. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome from Israel, Robert Rockaway, to It's Rainmaking Time. Good evening to you, sir.
How are you?
I'm good. You know, at first I have to tell you, I had a little bit of concern to do a show on this topic because we don't really get into politics. We cover discoveries and breakthroughs, both modern and ancient. We focus a lot on solutions. Mostly, this show is dedicated to a great love of learning, and there's a lot of times that books are not written about real facts and things that happen to peoples around the world, both ancient and modern. So my love of learning had me interested in this, and when I told people I'm doing a piece on this, they said, you got to be kidding. You're asking the question, is there a Jewish mafia? But I didn't know that they existed, that there was a history here. But what I loved about the title of the book, But He Was Good to His Mother, is because it's so Jewish. It's such a Jewish title. It's so Yiddish. The guy could kill X number of people, run this industry, be into the laundry business, stolen diamonds, machine guns, bookies, bootleggers, racketeering, but he was good to his mother. It's such a Jewish cultural motif, and it's at the core of a lot of things. But it is an anomaly, isn't it?
Well, first of all, let me mention where the title came from, and it answers your question. For many, many years, there was censorship in the Jewish community, and there were reasons for it. There was anti-Semitism in the 1920s with Henry Ford, the passing of immigration laws, which restricted Jewish immigration from Eastern Europe and had a tremendous impact in the 1930s when they were desperate to get out of Germany and other places. Then in the 1930s, you had Father Kovlin, and you had the Nazi Bund and all these other groups. Jews were terrified of portraying anything bad about their history. They always had to be better and nice and good, nice Jewish boys and doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs and everything. And many years ago, I read an article that was written, and it said, there's a censorship. We had these people. We had Lepke Buchalter. We had Ben Siegel. We had Longis Willman. We had these. Why aren't they written about? And because there's a censorship and fear in the community about exposing any of this because of the fear of anti-Semitism. Well, I read that article, and it was back in the 70s, and I said, yeah, that's right. And so I said, look, I'm living in Israel, so what are they going to do? They're going to come over here and get me? So I started researching it, and I had some help. A gentleman helped me meet old-time Jewish mobsters, and it was then in their late 80s and early 90s when I interviewed them. Some of them had been killers and had been in the Bugs Meyer mob and other kinds of things, and also FBI files that I got into and all kinds of other things. And when I started working on it, I came across information about for example, the title, where my family, my grandfather, peddled with the father of 3 killers who had been in Detroit's Purple Gang. And I was talking to my mother about this. This is way back when, about 30 years ago or so. And I was talking to her about it. I said, so-and-so, he was a sleazy guy. And she listened to me, and then her comment was, well, that may be true, but he was always good to his mother. So I said, Mom, you just gave me the title to the book. So I wrote, but he was good to his mother, the lives and crimes of Jewish gangsters. And what I tried to do in the book was to portray them as they were, the connection with the family, the community, and all kinds of other things, to be as factual as possible, but to do it in an entertaining way, in the sense of not to glorify them, but some of the things that that whole era and everything. There's a lot of humor in it. I mean, these guys were characters. I taped them. It's unbelievable, and so that was one of the things I did. But what you say is true. I got a lot of flack, and was asked in a nice way over the year, please don't do this. It's going to create anti-Semitism, and Israel's always having trouble, and it'll be bad for the Jews, and this and that. And in a sense, you feel as a Jew, I said, what do I want to do this for? On the other hand, it was so fascinating, and it's part of our history. Jews also controlled crime in Eastern Europe, in Lodz, in Poland, and in Warsaw, and in Krakow, and other places. And they were involved all kinds of things in Germany and Holland, wherever they were an underclass. And if you have to make a living, you do what you have to do. And there were dictionaries in German of underworld slang, and a lot of the words are in Yiddish. Now, where did the Germans weren't speaking Yiddish? Where did these little slang words for gangster terms end up in underworld slang? Because there were many Jews in England and other places in the underclass. And so it's not something that didn't exist. And we had a conference here a few years ago, and they asked me to talk, and I talked about the U.S., and one of the speakers was a professor from Ben Gurion University in the Negev, and he came up to me and he said, I just want to tell you something. Because of what you went through in your work, you opened the field that others can investigate this phenomena, and he was working on Eastern Europe, he said, without having to suffer what you went through. And it was hard. I mean, I was attacked in print and everything else. And I'm basically really a nice guy. But, you don't want to bring bad things against the Jews. But, over the years there have been movies. There's, Bugsy, and then there's Billy Bathgate, and Miller's Crossing, and Lepke. All kinds of movies have come out. Once Upon a Time in America and all this stuff. So now it's just part of folklore, and that's what's happened. But 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, Jews were terrified about anything that would portray them in a bad light, and this doesn't portray them in a good light. But they existed. They controlled crime in Detroit in the 20s and 30s, in Minneapolis, Minnesota in the 20s and 30s, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the 20s and 30s. These are Jewish syndicates, Jewish gangs. Minneapolis, Minnesota, as I said, and also Newark, New Jersey. The state was controlled practically by a man who was called the Al Capone of New Jersey. He was a Jew, Abner Longies Wilman, Longie. The Yiddish word was the Langer because he was 6 feet 4 inches tall. And he ran the show there, and his girlfriend was famous actress Jean Harlow. He's the guy that coined the term platinum blonde for her. And then when she went out to California and she was in the movies already, and then they kind of broke up. They didn't. But I mean, there's all kinds of things, and it's just part of our history. And to ignore it is to distort Jewish history. I know every ethnic group and racial group wants to portray only the good people. True. But there's also the other side of the coin. The same thing with Israel. For years was always about kibbutzim and, singing and dancing at night and working in the fields during the day. And if you read the newspapers today or anything like that, we've got all kinds of problems. And we don't have nice people all the time in the government and things. I mean, this is just, we're human beings like others. And we have a glorious history in many, many places and in many areas, whether it's science and it's medicine and it's art and philosophy and music and everything. But there's also another side to the story. And so people ask, why did you get into this? I said, well, as an academic, you have to write, so it might as well be something you're interested in. And I became interested in this out of curiosity, and it's fascinating. I mean, I've also written other things, but this is something that I have to tell you the truth, I really enjoyed it. I had these old-time gangsters on tape, and if you listen to them, you'll just roll on the floor. It's unbelievable. And when I would come to interview them, they would be sitting around a table, and then they'd start talking, shh, guys, the professor from Israel's here. Shut up, you guys. The professor, this kind of stuff. And I mean, it was just fascinating.
Were you scared to talk to them?
No, it was like going to a retirement home or an old age home. They're waiting for someone to talk to. Someone has come and is interested in their lives. And, it's like when I would visit my late grandfather who became ill and need 24-hour care, so he was in one of these retirement places. And when I would go there, I would visit him all the time. When I was still in school in Michigan, University of Michigan, I would drive into Detroit and see him all the time and go to shul with him and everything. But I would also visit the grandparents of friends of mine who were there as well. And they were so happy